Folks, welcome back to Beer and Business. Big show for you today. We've got Deborah Driggs with us. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're really excited to talk to you. But before we do, we're going to start with this lovely beer we've got here in the room. We are drinking one of my favorites from the official beer of the Beer and Business podcast, Aaron, which is?
Line Creek Brewing.
Oh my God, you got it right, Mr. Winnie. I'm shocked.
On the first try.
I know. It's awesome. We're drinking 6 Foot Rule. And the story behind this one, Deborah, is when COVID started, they had a little mishap and there was beer sitting in the tank for too long. And so they had to go try to fix it, quote unquote. And they ended up with a recipe that tasted really, really delicious. And so now it is stuck around, and the name is 6 Foot Rule to honor social distancing, which we all love so much.
Oh, yeah. Great. I love that rule.
Yes, we all do. But
I don't know.
we
I don't
actually.
know I don't know why it has to be 6, though. Why can't it be 8 or 9?
Well, because
who came up with 6?
Politician did.
I know.
Therefore, it's got to be perfect. But the beer is delicious. It is a hazy, which is what the young kids call, unfiltered, Mr. Winnie.
That's right.
And it's kind of tropical, a little juicy. I could drink this one a lot. And I probably will now that it's back.
And you have.
Let me get this straight. So you guys are drinking beer while you're interviewing a Playboy Playmate.
Yes.
Doesn't get much better than that.
I want your job.
You know what? I want my job right now. That's pretty awesome.
Have you really taken that in, like what you're doing right now?
No, I haven't. Not until you said it.
Yeah.
And we've also got, I cannot wait to hear your story. But before we get into that, we have a big announcement to make.
Finally,
yes. We're having our first event since COVID, Deborah. This is crazy. So we are having a podcasting workshop at Line Creek Brewing on April 14th. Registration starts at 5:00.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be late because the beer is delicious. So if you have wanted to start a podcast or you run a podcast and you're in the area, you got to come see us. How much does it cost, Aaron?
It's $3.
So you don't have to be loaded to go.
Nope.
It's like
but
nothing.
You can be loaded when you leave the place. So you might want to plan your Uber before you.
Yes. So we would love to see you out there. If you are interested in going, all you have to do is go to the Beer and Business website, which is, Darren?
Beer.business.
You got to start with W's
www.
Yes. Okay.
The World Wide Web.
Yes.
Web. Beer.business.
Go to beer.business, and there is right on the front page an announcement on the podcasting workshop. Please go there and fill out the registration. You have to register if you want to get in, because it's probably going to sell out because it's free. But you got to have a ticket to get in. So make sure that you do that. We'd love to see you out there. All right, Deborah.
Yes, I'm still here.
I know you are. I read like 2 paragraphs of your bio and was like, oh my gosh, we've got to talk to her. So you were an actress in the 80s and 90s. You were married to a professional athlete. You were on the cover of Playboy magazine with Donald Trump. Then you lost everything in 2008 and reinvented yourself in the insurance business. Just that sentence alone, I'm like, I need to know more.
Can we just go back to drinking beer with a Playmate instead? That sounds...
All right. Well, you guys enjoy what was it? Lions? Did you say Lion Street?
No, Line Creek.
Lion Creek. So it's funny because I belong to a group called the Lions Platinum Group. So you enjoy your Lion Creek beer. I'm drinking my Kagan filtered water.
Ours is better.
Yes, I'm gathering. So, a couple of corrections. So I am not on the cover with Donald Trump. That's Brandy Brandt, although she would love for me to take the credit. I don't think she's a huge fan of Donald, and I would be more than happy to take that credit. I am on the cover of April 1990, the following month.
Well, you screwed up, mister. Go back and look at your collection again. Obviously, you messed this up.
Yeah, my collection.
Hey,
it was articles, Deborah.
It's okay. You guys are drinking your beer, and I just thought I would correct that. And yes, I was married to a professional athlete. He was quite the professional athlete. He was a 4-time Olympic gold medal He won 4 Olympic medals in the 1984 Olympics. Right? Yes. Yeah. So we're very proud of that. He was the #1 gymnast in the world going into those Olympics. So yes, he was quite the professional athlete. And we had 3 beautiful children together. So
awesome.
That's amazing. So yeah, no, I grew up, I'm born and raised in Southern California. I grew up here, and my first addiction was attention as a kid. I would do anything to get attention, put on my go-go boots and dance around singing Nancy Sinatra. And that just was me. That was me. And so, it was no accident. Nobody was surprised that, I started doing commercials and modeling and all of that in the early 80s. And then, I get a call from my agent to go and audition for Playboy. And I said, well, is there nudity? And she's like, no, not. Well, this is what's funny about the story is that, I'm the girl next door and I'm funny, and I never thought of myself as sexy Playboy material. And so I get this call.
No, neither have I.
Right. You have to really have a specific feeling about yourself.
Sure.
To think you're sexy to be posing nude in Playboy. But anyway, so she called me. She said, no, they're coming out with a book. It's called the Lingerie Book, and they want you for the cover. So when I went to go to this audition, they gave me a robe and said, take everything off and we're going to do a Polaroid. And I said, no, I'm not here for that. I'm here for the Lingerie Book. Cut to, I get a call that night. They want to test me to be a Playmate. And I said, you got to be kidding. Are you sure they got the right girl? Because, it was just not on my radar.
Sure.
And so, I called my family and I called people that I knew would give me their truthful opinion about it. And I didn't get one negative response. I mean, everybody was like, you got to do it. It's so sexy. It's the best magazine in the world. And at that time, truthfully, it was the #1 magazine in the world. Mm-hmm. And so, I spent 4 or 5 weeks shooting my centerfold, and that was in the summer of '89. It came out in February of '90 for March. Playboy always came out a month ahead of time, right? So when it came out in February, it was the March issue. So I was March 1990, and that's the cover with Donald Trump and Brandy. And then I was on the cover of April 1990.
So,
which you dug up by now, right? You're looking at it as you're.
No, we're not actually.
You're like, oh, okay.
No, we wanted to make sure we stayed focused for this interview, so we did not do that.
Okay.
So I'm curious. I mean, I've never talked to anybody that has been in Playboy, much less on the cover. What goes through your mind if you're thinking of yourself as just this normal person, and all of a sudden, the world is going to be looking at you? Like, what does that do to you internally? I'm just fascinated at what that process is like.
Well, let me just clarify another thing. I have never claimed to be normal. Okay, I don't know that is. I'm definitely far from normal. I picked a very, what a crazy career I had in the 80s and 90s. But yeah, what went through my mind was, I posing nude it's a lot of work. It's, first of all, I was like, oh my God, like, you're raw, you're naked in front of, and there's a whole crew of people. So it's not like it's just you and the photographer having this photo session. There's like lighting and makeup and hair and set props, and there's a lot of people on set. And so to me, what was really funny about it, and it's funny that I remember this still 30 years later, is that it was not, they didn't care. They had seen so many beautiful bodies for years that I was just another body in the room. It's more, it's a job. Mm-hmm. And so, they got the music playing and the photographer's talking to me, and he's like, are you, he's always checking in. I had a great Richard Fegley. Oh my God, bless his heart. I was so fortunate that I got to work with him. And he was always just concerned about how I was doing. Are you good? Are you ready? And he would talk to me about, what we were going to shoot, and that how the lighting would probably take a while, and I'd have to sit in a position for a long period of time because, you know, it was all about lighting and getting the right position. And so it's work. You know, I'd leave for the day and I would be so sore the next day, you know, from holding position. It's like a workout, really, honestly. It's people think, you know, that it's like you lay there nude and they get the shot and it's like, boom, you're done. And it's not. It took weeks to shoot.
How could you be sore? You didn't even have the weight of clothes holding you down.
Exactly. Exactly. My muscles were atrophying. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, it was, you know, you realize that it's just another normal day at the office. You know, people are doing the lighting, people are touching up my makeup, and it's kind of funny, actually. It's kind of the same thing with shooting a love scene. You know, there's a lot of people in the room and it's work. There's nothing sexy or romantic about it. Honestly, you kind of have to you have to kind of have a mindset like, okay, ready, you know, and I'd have to transport myself to France because that was kind of the theme of my issue. And we played French music, and, you know, because there's so much going on that it's hard to, you know, I don't want to look like, oh, they're doing lighting. You want to look like you're relaxed and comfortable. And honestly, it's, you know, anything but.
So after the episode or the two issues were out, how did it change for you? I mean, did you like walk up to people and guy looks at you like, oh yeah, he's seen me naked, you know, like just like I'm just curious, what is it like after that happens and, you know, people have seen it, you know, what does that do to you?
Well, interestingly enough, in person, I don't look like my issue. So, you know, I wasn't a girl that walked around looking how I look in the magazine with hair and makeup and red lipstick. You know, I didn't look that way. So not a lot of people recognize me unless oh wait, Deborah Driggs, you know. It was my cover that really, because my cover was more recognizable. And my cover is when people were like, are you on the cover of Playboy? And that was, you know, that was the more, you know, like everybody all of a sudden was looking at me different from that. And, you know, how it changed on another hand is that, you know, obviously my agent was getting more calls. We want to meet her. I ended up doing the Oprah Winfrey Show in February 1990 for the Valentine's Day special. And I did the Bob Hope special. And, you know, all of a sudden more opportunities were available to me. And because I had started acting and I had already gone on auditions for acting, and I had already done quite a few commercials and a handful of, you know, bit parts here and there, that when those calls came in, I was kind of ready. You know, I was somewhat ready for it. So
when you were getting those calls, I mean, you do Playboy, and you said you're on Oprah, you do the Bob Hope special. Were there certain doors that you thought that would open up for you as far as your acting career and what you were trying to aspire to do besides the bit parts in the commercials? And did it meet your expectations, or did it kind of fall to the side?
So that's a great question. So some did, you know, some opportunities came out of the woodwork, you know, like a lot of people really did want to bring me in and meet me. And, you know, here, you know, of course it's the entertainment world. So some people just wanted to bring me in to meet me and weren't really serious about hiring me. But also during this time, and you can Google this, Julie McCullough was on a show, Growing Pains with Kirk Cameron.
Yep.
And she got fired when they found out she was a Playmate. So when I was a Playmate, it was a very interesting time. Now that would never happen. You know, nobody would care. But back then it was a big deal. And they thought, this doesn't really match what the show's about. And so they fired her, and she was so good on the show. And I remember putting her on the cover of Playboy when that happened, because he just felt like, you know, they took away that opportunity from her. So it was an interesting time. A lot of people did want to meet me, but then there were people that were still very conservative, you know, and
so
you know,
It's great. Actually, culture has really evolved since then because now, you can be in Playboy and not get fired. But if you read your kid's Dr. Seuss, you may,
Yeah. We live in a very different world. That is exactly the kind of stuff that goes through my mind. It's like, really? Okay.
What are we doing?
Yeah, we can have the girls next door, but we can't have Dr. Seuss. Okay.
I know, it's so weird.
Yeah.
So obviously, from there, you did some acting, right?
I did some acting, did some hosting, worked, when I got married in 1992, I had kids right away. And in 1997, my third child was born. And I did a couple jobs at that time. I think the last pilot TV show I did was a show called Nightstand, which was a comedy. And after that, because it took a lot of, that was a really fun show to work on. And I just remember even doing a small show like that, and not a small show, but I mean, I had a small role on the show, but just the whole preparation for the show and the time consuming, taking away from my kids, I decided to kind of take a step back and be a full-time mom. And so in 2003, we decided to move to Park City, Utah. And I got an agent in Utah, in Salt Lake City. I went with Talent Management Group. And I ended up doing commercials and hosting jobs and infomercials in Salt Lake, here and there. And then my favorite thing I did was when I lived in Park City, and this is going to sound so funny, but one of the most fun, creative, favorite jobs I did was I worked for Park City TV, which was the local TV station. And I hosted the Mountain Morning Show. And it was a 2-hour unscripted morning show. And I showed up every morning and bantered with my host, Chris Steele. And it was for the locals, and it was for people visiting from out of town to talk about what Park City had to offer. And I loved it. For me, and it didn't pay anything, but I loved just doing the 2-hour, kind of like what you guys do, right? Where you get together, you banter, you interview people, you have fun. There's something about it. It's just really fun. And that was one of my most favorite times in my life, was doing that show.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. It's the highlight of our week is being able to sit down and talk to somebody interesting like yourself in this format. And it's been a lot of fun. So I totally get it.
Yeah, that's what I did. If people came to town, and it was especially during Sundance Film Festival, I would get some really cool interviews and
some really weird ones too.
And absolutely. I love the weird ones.
Probably the year I was out there for Sundance.
Yes.
That's
really weird that year.
So, and so, there's just been so many ebb and flow throughout my career that's, I've been high on the cover of, I did like 3 or 4 covers for Playboy, and I did cover of Muscle and Fitness. And, I was featured in articles and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And then there were times when I didn't work and nobody knew who I was, and it's like, it just is the nature of that business. You could be in for 5 minutes and out for a long time. So
didn't Muscle and Fitness call you, Mr. Winnie, about
all the time?
Yeah.
Oh.
They wanted all the time. They said, please.
Dad bod issue.
And she's a subscription. Yeah,
they want to feature your beer belly.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Actually, Mr. Winnie showed me an article not long ago that said that women now find the dad bod more sexy than ever. So
yep,
it's all good. I mean, I feel
they're lying.
Whatever you believe, whatever you want to believe, you can find it on the internet.
Dreams shattered.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So I want to talk to the big thing that I took away from looking at your bio was you losing everything. And then you told me when we did a little discussion, a pre-interview before coming on the show, you told me what you got into, and it just seemed so fascinating to me how you reinvented yourself. But talk to us about what led to you losing everything and what that experience was like.
So I got divorced in 2004. And, we were already going through, some financial struggle. And I didn't walk away from my divorce with a huge divorce settlement. And so after the divorce, I started working. Now, I had never worked. I mean, I don't want to say I'd never worked. I had only worked in the entertainment world. Besides having jobs in high school and college, that was all I knew. So I first started out as a spa director. Then in 2007 or 2006, I got my real estate license, and I lived in a second home market, beautiful ski, homes and a lot of people had, their second home in Park City. And so I got my license, and I worked for the number one realtor at that time in Park City. And what I did is I met with him and I said, look, I got my license and I'd like to be your assistant, but I don't know how to do anything. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I've never worked in an office. I don't know how to work a computer. I don't know how to do anything. So if you teach me all of that, I'm really good with people. And he said, well, guess what? I have 22 listings and I don't really want to deal with people because I really enjoy doing the marketing. And we just synced up. So it's like, if you can handle my clients and, because they're not easy to handle at times, especially when they're trying to sell their house.
And I'm probably guessing you were a little more likable than him.
Yes.
So
a lot more. He was lovely actually. And I adore him and I'm still very good friends with him to this day. But anyway, so we met that weekend. I showed up to his office and he showed me how to scan, how to print, how to do the emails, how to do, and, I picked it up. I'm pretty smart. First of all, I passed my real estate exam, which I didn't think I was going to because there was a lot of math. Yes, and this is a girl. I'm a girl that barely graduated high school. That school was not a thing for me. I just wasn't interested and I didn't think I was smart. And this was the first time in my life. Now I'm 40, in my 40s, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually really smart. And so we were a really good team until 2008. As you know, the market took a dive, and the first thing to go was the second home market. Boom, I'm out of a job and out of money. Yep. And so I literally lost everything, including my kids, because I was really the full-time parent living with my 3 kids in Park City. My husband was now living back in California.
Husband, I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well played.
And so I had to call him and I said, I think you're going to have to take the kids and I'm going to have to figure out what to do. So when I say I lost everything, I lost everything. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a place to live. There was a point really, I knew it was getting bad when the temple, we belonged to the temple in Park City, and they started buying us groceries, literally. And so I was like, okay, this is not good. And so I went and lived with my mother in Ocala, Florida, which I don't know if you know where that is, but
yep.
Ocala is like, between Orlando and Tampa. It's just out in it's horse country.
Yeah. It is. Beautiful.
And beautiful horse country, but there's nothing there and there's nothing to do.
No.
Not a lot going on.
And Florida was one of the hardest hit states for real estate really too. Bad. So boy, that must have just poured salt on the wound.
Yeah. So here I am now. I'm back living at home. I have no job, no money. My kids are living with their dad. My kids are miserable. They want to stay with me. And I'm trying to figure out what the next chapter of my life is going to look like. And I spent probably 3 weeks, just couldn't get out of bed. My mom would come in. She's like, do you want breakfast? And I just look at her and just shake my head. No, I just didn't want to eat. I didn't want to, I didn't know what, I was suicidal basically at this point. I just didn't want to live. It was so sad to me. I was like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I get here? I was just brought to my knees. And so I took a job and I worked on a yacht. If you could, you can't even believe it. Yeah, I can't even make this up. But I
so
went.
You're thinking like, I've never seen that posted on Glassdoor or.
Yeah.
They made her the captain immediately. They turned her out.
I have so much respect for people who do this work because I'd never worked so hard in my life. And I was on this boat for 3 weeks. And I was bruised from head to toe by the time I got off the boat. And I never slept because I was just working my ass off, if we can say ass on the show.
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
So I did that. And then I got a job in print procurement in New York. And I ended up working for this print company for about 17 months. But where I'm going to take you is in 2010, I got my license. I had a friend before I moved to Park City who was the number one guy in life insurance. And I called him and I said, I was just pulling everything out of my hat, right, to make money. So I called him and I said, hey, if I refer you business, can I get a referral fee? Like I would do anything to make money at this point. And so he was like, Deborah, go get your license.
Make your own.
So while I was working for the print company, I studied really hard and I went and got my life insurance license and I ended up building a business. And in 2012, I became the number one life agent for one of our carriers. They didn't even know who I was. They were like, who is this girl? Because I wasn't captive to them, but they had a product that everybody liked and we sold it. And I was very lucky because I had all my entertainment connections and a lot of those people became my clients. And I had success in 2011, 12, and 13. I made more money in those 3 years than I'd ever seen in my entire life.
Wow.
And
hold on,
a hell of a book of business there.
You just said so much. Okay. I want to back you up because there's some really important nuggets I want to pull out of this.
Go all the way back to what were you doing? What kind of work were you doing on that yacht, by the way?
I was the stewardess. So I was washing everything, ironing, cleaning the bathrooms every day, setting the table. The chef would make the food, serving the food to the people on the ship. I was the stewardess on the.
Was Mr. Winnie a good boss?
Winnie.
Wow.
She likes that.
Holy cow! You were really busting your.
Hold on. I want to go back to this. Is really important. So you went from
And by the way, the name of that boat is called Summer Love. I was on the boat called Summer Love. We took it from Baltimore to New York, and then we picked up the clients in New York, and then they came back to Baltimore. And so I was on that boat for 3 weeks on that ship. It was a boat. It was 120 feet.
Just a little
wow.
It's a big boat.
So
it was a chef. It was the captain, the chef, the mate, the first mate, and me. It was the four of us.
Yeah. Usually when I take my yacht from Baltimore to New York, I go from there over to the, coast of Greece in a few weeks.
It doesn't sound like a job you want to start when in your 40s.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't. It was humbling. Believe me, it was very, very humbling.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to get into. So you went from this place where you moved back in with your mom. You can't even get out of bed, depressed, rock bottom. What was the shift in you? What happened to get you up and humbled to go take a job and just start trying again?
Well, this is the funny thing. And I tell people this story and they can actually visualize this. Did you see that movie In Her Shoes with Cameron Diaz and Shirley MacLaine?
Yep.
Okay. Even if you hadn't seen it, basically the premise is Shirley MacLaine lives in a 55 and over community and Cameron Diaz goes to live with her in this community. And she knows everybody in the community. Well, that's kind of what happened to me. I go live with my mom. My mother lives in a 55 and over community. I couldn't get out of bed. I'm totally depressed. And my mom, bless her heart, she's like, Debbie, don't you want to just come? And she just like, come have a cup of tea. So eventually I got out of the bed and got to the couch and I'd watch a movie here and there. And she had a dog. And Heidi is my mom's dog's name. And my mom said, my mom's really smart. She said, could you walk Heidi for me? So I start walking the dog every day and I start meeting all the people in the community and their dogs. And every day it became like, I'd start offering, I'm going to take Heidi for a walk because I'd go meet all the people at the little meeting place with the dogs. And it's like, that's what saved my life, guys. Like I had a purpose.
Yeah.
And this is no joke. Like I had a purpose and my purpose was to get up and take Heidi for a walk and go meet the people in this community. And you know what it really came down to? I was of service.
Yeah.
I wasn't making money. I wasn't doing anything glamorous. I was of service because these people looked forward to seeing me every day. They wanted to hear my stories. they kept saying to me, oh, your mom must be so proud to have you here. And she must be so proud of all your accomplishments. And they gave me my self-esteem back. They gave me a gift, and they didn't even know they were giving me a gift.
You know, it's so funny.
I know you get your tissue out.
No, I know. So here's the crazy thing, right? I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I think one of the biggest things that's impacting our culture today, why so many people are like at each other's throats on social media and stuff, is there are so many people today that just really lack purpose. Mm-hmm. They just lack purpose because, you know, God has been taken out of so much, and there's so many things that have stripped purpose away from people. And without purpose, life is, you know, kind of messed up, Mr. Winnie.
Yeah. Look at Steve Martin in The Jerk. He found his special purpose, and that lit up his life for a while, didn't it?
Yes, it sure did.
Is this thing on? I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna be somebody.
Day.
Look at me, I'm somebody now. I'm in the telephone book.
Glad you appreciate that.
Well, just the little things.
Well, that's excellent. So was it one of those people in that community that was like, I have a friend who owns a yacht?
No. So what happened was, while I was busy walking the dog and getting my self-esteem back, I was online every day looking for jobs. And I said, we're close to Fort Lauderdale, and there's opportunities to work on a ship or a boat. And I said, but I've got to go and get this license. So I had to go to Fort Lauderdale and get this. I had to do this course, because to work on a ship or a boat, you have to have a couple different licenses. You have to know what to do in case of an emergency. You have to be able to give CPR. And so I forget what it's called, because I only worked on one boat. Yeah, it's a maritime license you have to have. And so I went to Fort Lauderdale and I got that. And while I was in the process of getting that license, somebody contacted me. I'd put myself on a website saying I'm available to work on your boat. And this captain contacted me and he said, I'm actually looking for somebody for a 3-week gig. You'd have to fly to Baltimore and you'd be on the ship for 3 weeks. And I said, I'm in. And guys, I think I made $2,500.
Well, you know what? So let me give you some credit here. And this is something I want to unlock and talk about a little bit more. So you are a person that went from gracing the cover of Playboy magazine on TV, wonderful life. You had life was, I'm sure, amazing for you. And then it just humbled you so hard. And I've met people that have gone through similar situations, and they just can't bring themselves to start over and get back to grinding.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm too good for that. I've already done it.
It's hard. I get it.
How'd you do it?
It's hard. I mean, there was nothing, God, I just didn't even think. I was like, I think I'm going to be living in Ocala for the rest of my life. Your mind and your thoughts go to these dark places. And it was really hard. And I didn't have anybody really. I had my mom was my cheerleader, but I didn't really have anybody. Everybody was doing their lives. Everybody was doing them. And here I am walking a dog in a 55 and over community trying to get my self-esteem back. It's like, how did I land here? And so what had happened was I did have a friend in New York, God bless him. He reached out to me on Facebook and he said, what are you doing? Like you've gone completely silent. And he was a good friend. He lived in New York. And I said, Kenny, I'm just having a really hard time. Like I have no job, no money. And he's like, you know what? I'm flying you to New York. You're coming to New York for the weekend and you need to come and just be yourself. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. I don't even think I can get my hair done. It was like, I just didn't feel glamorous enough to go to New York, but he talked me into it. And I saw my friends in New York. And while I was at a dinner, this gentleman that sat next to me, this is a little God shot right here, gentleman sat next to me and he owned a print company. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking for work. I said, I was selling real estate and I lost, my job and I have no money. And, I didn't give him all the gory details. I was trying to fake it till I make it type thing. But he basically looked at me and goes, well, if you could sell real estate. You could sell print. Why don't you work for me? And I said, well, who is it that you want? I said, what do you do? I said, why don't we meet for lunch and you tell me who you want to meet, what you want to do. And then I had a girlfriend that said, Deb, come to New York. She paid my rent for 2 months. God bless her. So I could come to New York. And I had a little bit of money saved up at this point. So not a lot, and so I went to New York, and this is, the gifts of the universe, and my friends, my friend paid my rent for 2 months, and I met this gentleman with a print company, and he said, look, if you can set up 10 meetings, I'll put you on a draw. And I said, well, what's a draw? And he said, that's money towards your commissions. Well, I didn't know any of this, guys. Well, how do I know what any of this
Right.
is?
I don't even know.
But I like that idea. I like the idea of getting paid every month and then having it being taken out of my commissions. I was like, that's a great idea. And he agreed, and we agreed on what I would make per month. And it was, again, more money than I was making selling real estate. And sure enough, basically, I set up those 10 meetings. I set those 10 meetings up in 24 hours. He couldn't believe it. He said, you're definitely on a draw. And I worked for him for almost 2 years. And one of my best stories was, I truly believe, I have one of my sayings that I came up with while I was working for the print company was no means maybe.
That's
Remember that, guys.
That's sales.
Sales. Okay.
Right.
Sales.
That's sales. And I wrote it down in big letters on my yellow pad when I was taking notes, because I got it, out of 100 calls, I'd get 90 no's and maybe 10 maybes or 10 yeses. It was very rare that people just automatically wanted to meet with me.
Yep.
And, that's the whole thing with sales, right? That's the brutal truth.
Every note brings you closer to a yes.
Yeah. And so
much fun.
yeah.
We love it.
So
Let's do that more often.
But that was the hustle. And so I just termed that phrase, no means maybe. And I thought, okay, when people say no, Deb, just know that they're going to come back around. And I got us into all the movie studios and Revlon and Hallmark. I mean, I hustled. And so I had a good run with that company. And while I was working for him, I got my life insurance license on the weekends and started selling life insurance. And that's where I think really the lessons I learned from the print business really kicked in by the time I got to life insurance.
So I have a question for you, because, I've been in sales in various forms pretty much my entire career. Sales has always been an element of what I've done. And Darren too, although, have you ever sold anything?
No.
But anyways,
No.
The crazy thing is so many people have been in a position like yours where they're making those calls and they're getting those 90 no's and 10 maybes. And most people flame out, but you kept going. You came up with this motto, no means maybe. Where was this motivation? It takes extreme motivation to put up with all of the no's and to keep driving. Where was that motivation coming from with you?
My 3 kids. Because I was living in New York, and I would get a call every morning at 10 a.m. my time, Mom, come get us.
Oh.
And I said, I'm working on it. And God was really looking out for me, because wouldn't you know, the owner of my company bought a company in Tustin, and my kids were living in Newport Beach, California. And he bought a company in Irvine. And I went right to him and I said, he's telling me about it. He said, I'm going to buy this company in Irvine and turn it into Smart Source. That name of his company, Smart Source, turn it into Smart Source. And I said, oh my God, Tom, can I work out of that office? And he's like, well, I really want you in New York, but he goes, if you come to New York once in a while, he goes, I don't think it can be a problem, but he goes, but here's the deal, Deb, I really want you in New York. I'm not going to pay for you to move back. I said, I'll pay to move back. I got to be closer to my kids. And so I worked out of that office, and it didn't really work out too well, because I really was doing well in New York, and it was a different vibe, and it was just getting started in California, and I just couldn't it was too new. But what was great about it is that it got me back to California, and it got me with my kids, and my kids ended up living with me, and I ended up getting full custody of my kids, really. And it was a blessing in disguise. I had no idea. It's always, now I have these tools. I didn't really have them. Whenever you're going through something, you don't see the lesson. You just think you're hustling, you're struggling, you're suffering, or whatever it is. Some people don't. Some people go through those things really gracefully. I just happen to not be one of those people. I don't learn the lesson until 5 years later, and so I'm kind of a late bloomer in that way.
Well, there's something really important to that, though, because this is something that I try to instill in my kids is as much as I can talk to them about it. Life can be beautiful one day and it can just kick you in the nuts the next. And the times that I've had where life just really is not doing good things to me, making lots of problems. Those are the times when, it's not, you don't be a victim. You learn from them. Even if it takes you a while, you learn from them. You let it motivate you. You let it make you better. And that's so important because right now I feel like culturally we're teaching people victimization way too much. Way too much.
Be responsible.
Everything, everybody. It's hard for me because I really want to voice my opinion on a lot of things, but
your motivation
my motivation also came from the fact that, growing up, I was an athlete and I was a figure skater, and I always credit that time in my life as to really giving me the tools, because I didn't have parents, that gave me any tools. I grew up in a very neglectful, I was very neglected and abandoned as a kid by my parents. And, not because they wanted to, because they were working and they were struggling, and they were, my mom got married when she was 18 and my dad was 21, and they didn't have tools. But my ice skating saved my life because it gave me those tools, and my coach and the discipline and the not being a victim. If you fall, you get back up. And so I think I got motivation from my 3 kids and trying to get back to them and trying to get back on track with them. And 2, from my ice skating days and the perseverance that you need. You don't get up at 4 a.m. to skate before school because you think it might be fun. You get up because you want it. And there's nothing else that matters. I don't know any other reason why athletes get up at 4 a.m. to do the unthinkable things that most people would never do. And so, and when I was let's get up at 4 a.m. to freeze our ass off and get a good workout. You just wouldn't do it unless it's something you passionately want.
Well, ice skating and hockey players, you take the ice time when you can get it. That's exactly why you get up at 4 a.m.
It's cheaper.
We used to play drop-in hockey at 10:30 at night on the weekdays. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you get it because they're making money during public session. After from 3 to 7 is public session, and and there's the times when the hockey players and the figure skaters skate. It's odd. And back when I skated, we had to do figure 8, so I spent all morning doing those figure 8s, and then after school go back to do freestyle. It was nuts. So I got discipline and time management, and, I learned
purpose.
I learned, that it's not always going to go my way. And some days you show up to do something and it just all goes, I'm falling more than I'm skating, type thing.
Sure.
But you get back up and you show up the next day. And I have also learned that 80% of everything, especially in the entertainment world, and this is true 100% in the entertainment world, 80% of the challenge of auditioning and all of that is just showing up.
Yeah. That's the same.
Just show up, stay in line and show up. And that's 80% of the battle.
It is.
is just making yourself available and showing up and being present. And the other 20% is talent.
Or in Mr. Winnie's case,
sobriety,
50%, so talented. So I want to talk to you, Deborah. Obviously we're learning your story and we're hearing this incredible story of motivation, but you did find unbelievable success in the insurance business.
Yes.
And so I'm curious, what are some of the things that you figured out about success in business and in sales that propelled you into the position that you ultimately found yourself?
Well, to keep humble, be humble and always be of service and always be there to add value, because at the end of the day, people are going to do business with people they really like and people who are adding value. And, it's really that. It's simple. It's difficult, any type of business, but it's simple. If you stay to those principles of just being of service and adding value and staying humble, your clients are going to love you and they're going to stay with you and they're going to want to do business with you. And so that's what I have found, these last few years is, the more I show up and just say, what can I do here? How can I add more value? To me, that's where the true success really comes. And the other thing too is, I would say that when you do get the success, especially this is really more, it could be for anybody because, like I said, I'm a late bloomer, but, all of a sudden I started making money and I didn't know how to invest or do any of that, and so that was another thing that took me a while to figure out, oh, guess what? I can't go spend everything and I can't buy my dream car. And, that wouldn't be so smart, but, I did, and I made those mistakes as well. So, just also, when you start doing really well, and any successful person will tell you this, save.
Yes.
Save, get your buckets in order.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad to hear you talking about, the personal touch relationship, doing business with people. It's so funny. Today in our current business environment, I'll hear people talk about technology as though it's changing that, and it's not. In fact, I think if anything, it's making it even more important, because I think what technology has done is I think it's reducing the amount of opportunities you have to create that kind of relationship with somebody. So many things we do in business, whether it's you as a consumer or it's business to business, has become tech. And the minute somebody's like, no, I want to sit down with you in person, I do a handshake deal, you're like, fuck yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Please, let's do that. Like I miss it. I
guarantee and not throw this out there, but I'm going to that network event that we're starting in 2 months. It will be packed because people are going to want to be making that personal connection.
They want to see other human beings
face to face. Don't freaking use MailChimp or some shit and send me a damn email. That's the most impersonal thing. Like, sorry, I missed you today. Could we have a meeting set up for 5 minutes later? It's like, go screw yourself.
Yeah. Pick up.
Call me at least.
Right.
Don't.
That stuff makes a huge.
Sorry, Deborah. Didn't mean
the Irishman mad. Now he's.
I like human contact.
I do too. And this is, in my business, it was really fun because before the pandemic, most of the stuff that we did was at lunch and dinner and, or breakfast, meeting for coffee. We were meeting in person. We meet with business managers and lawyers and accountants and, and you do that in person. It's and who?
I said, and people too.
And those people, yes, we met with those people.
You're working with people. You're trying to sell them life insurance to protect their life. I'm sure one of the first things that they want to know is you're going to go meet them face to face.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge.
Yeah. And life insurance is always a really fun, it's always fun to sell life insurance because nobody wants to buy it. And so I used to always say,
no, nobody wants to pay for it.
They don't want to pay for it.
No.
But,
And then they
so
don't talk about the uncomfortable part of it. And that's
right. So
where you're really good with them.
So people would say to me, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I sell life insurance, but what I really do is I protect people from unexpected life events.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they lean in. I got the lean in on that one. And then they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I have this little thing I call life insurance. And, here's the deal. We don't want to be, in a situation where an unexpected life event happens and, we're not protected. So, and I have a lot of, the other thing too, I will say is I am really grateful and I'm super lucky because I live in LA and my background in the entertainment world really helped because I was able to pick up the phone and call a lot of business managers. And, my first client,
I'm going to stop you right here. That is not luck. That is absolutely not luck. Do you know how many people have everybody knows people, everybody. And you know how many times I meet people that get into sales positions and they are absolutely terrified to call the people that they know and just say, hey, I'm in a new business and I need help. Or I'm looking for clients or I have something to offer. So that is not luck. You had a Rolodex, but you executed, you called people, and that takes guts. That takes discipline. That takes
you are absolutely 100% correct. I absolutely dialed for dollars. And so this is where my no means maybe really came into effect because that first person I called, he used to be the head of Warner Brothers. And I called him up and I said, look, if I get you as a client, I just know that you'll refer me business and this will really help me get my business started. And my biggest, hurdle was having people go, she's not just a centerfold, she's actually really smart and she's a businesswoman. And that was my biggest hurdle. So he said to me, Deborah, I already have life insurance and but I'll still refer you business. And I would not let it go. And I said, no, listen, let me just do an audit because I know that I can lower your premiums. And he's like, how do you know? And I said, I just know because I know that most people will put you as standard. And I know you're super preferred because I know you.
Damn,
he's like, Deborah, I have this guy that I use. And I go, okay, look, I'm going to call you next week. He's like, Deborah, I said, no. And I said, I know, but next week something could change. And I called him the following week and he was like, okay, Deborah, what is it that you want me to do? And I said, I just want to do the audit. And he goes, okay, do the audit. And sure enough, I saved him 18% on his premiums. He changed. He's still my client today. And you know what? He did refer me a ton of business. And you know what he would say? Just do it with her because she's not going to leave you alone.
Yes.
And I didn't even have to sell myself. He's telling people, just do your life insurance with her. She's not going to take no for an answer.
It's not even a warm lead. That's a sizzling hot lead that he's making business with.
Look out, people. Coming through.
I should give him a referral fee.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's why I say no means maybe. You just, the minute you take it personal or you take no as the final, right. you're out of the sales game. It's a spiritual game. You got to stay in. You
went from acting, right? So you were used to being rejected, I'm assuming.
Totally. 100%. Right? Of course.
But it's not personal.
Darren's used to being rejected all the time.
Jesus, I look at myself in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth and I say no to myself. Are you kidding me? Oh, God, turn the light off, please.
No.
So,
no, not going to happen. No.
So you learned it that way, like it's not, even though you think it's personal, it's not personal.
It's not.
In the acting business.
It's not. And, and my other saying is next.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, because at some point the no is going to be final, right?
Right.
And so instead of
Not much
harbor,
moving
you
on.
don't harbor on it. You just next. What's next?
Mhm.
And you go to the next thing, and you do the next right thing, and you move on. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, that no will come back around at some point.
You know what I really like about your story? I hear so many people, and man, if I had a nickel for every time I've heard this,
A wooden
Darren.
one?
No, a real one.
Oh, okay.
Not from your era.
Sorry.
After that.
When I was a child.
Yeah. But what I hear so many times is, oh, well, I'm not a salesperson.
You don't have to be.
Everybody is a salesperson. Everybody. It's not, there's not a personality type. There's not a, it is a will. It is a mindset. You know what it is, Deborah? It's a decision. I'm going to make the decision to keep going. I'm going to make the decision to keep driving until I get a real no, not a maybe no.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decision. And so many people I've seen start out and they're like, oh, I'm not a salesperson. And they end up like realizing that the secret, they make that decision and they become really, really good and make a lot of money. And so you're not.
Well, by the way, the minute you say I'm not a salesperson, guess what?
You're not.
You're not.
Right.
You just said it.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Yours is
so
built.
What you want to say is I have this wonderful product and I love it. And I know you're going to love it as much as I love it, and that's the thing. If you're going to sell something, you might as well sell something you love. And I just happen to love life insurance. I think it's very useful and I have it. And, I put my money where my mouth is. I have a lot of life insurance in case something happens to me. I want my kids to be protected. I also feel that it's, a great way to grow wealth,
Absolutely.
in a family that didn't, we don't have a silver spoon in this family. So why not create one?
Yeah, that's amazing. One of the things I really admire about your story and I appreciate in our current climate is right now, Deborah, so many people are experiencing what you experienced in 2008. And the worst part about this is it's nobody's fault. Like you were in the real estate business, things were going great, and the market crashed. Not because of what you did, just because there were some, nefarious people in the finance industry that made some
In the what? Where? Who?
There were bankers, people that should be in jail that didn't go to jail.
Insurance company.
Yeah, but it was really bad. Well, to now today, since COVID has started, more than 1 out of 5 businesses, small businesses, has gone out, and there's tens of millions more on the ropes. There are so many people that have already lost everything.
So unnecessary. Yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah.
May be in a really difficult position, no fault of their own. They did nothing wrong, but because of, government policy and, poor decisions by state and local government, they've lost it. And
yeah, I just happen to live
California, aren't you?
Yeah, I just happen to live
in California.
I just happen to live in a city that is, I was in Beverly Hills this morning. It looks like it's a war zone. Everything's police. I hate to be so dramatic about it, but I've never seen, my city look so bad, and I just, I don't understand. Well,
It's
I do
funny.
understand, but
when you and I spoke earlier this week, you said it looked like a war zone. It was like a wasteland.
Yeah.
And so you piqued my curiosity because I've heard so many people say this, and I watched some videos on YouTube. People that have like driven through the streets of LA and, some of the surrounding areas recently. And it's unlike anything you could imagine.
No, it's so sad. I live right off the 405 and I have to pass every day hundreds of tents, homeless people, thousands. And it used to be a couple, wasn't that it wasn't super noticeable, but now it's so many. And and by the way, so funny that you say, I experienced 2008 and last year was, my business took a hit because insurance companies got scared and held back and said, we're not going to insure anybody 60 and over because they thought, COVID was an old people disease, right? Like if you're 50 and over, you get COVID. Oh my God, it could be a death sentence. And so the insurance companies just, they bought into it and they got scared. So they were like, well, it became really hard to insure anybody 60 and over. And all of a sudden, things that we used to go, and we have relationships with all the underwriters at all the carriers, and they were all like, there's nothing we could do. And they didn't even want to send, we have our own private doctor because of the clients that we have, but, nobody was going to people's, they couldn't send people the meds out to do the physical for it was just crazy. It was like, oh my God. And so right around May and June of 2020, I was like, I think we're going to be in one of those situations again. And, working from home and with our business, we're, like you said, we're used to being in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We like to see our people, our clients and all, and we weren't, everything was shut down, and we do a lot of business in LA and New York. So guess what? It was game over. So during that time, I decided to write a book because I thought, okay, I've been here before. So what do I do now? And I thought, well, why don't I write a memoir of all the lessons I've learned in my life? And I started throwing it out to a few people, and they were like, yeah, I'd read that. And I thought, okay. So I kept going, and my goal, what I've put into the universe, is that I'd like to see it out in your hands by the end of the summer. So, so that's what I did during the pandemic when I was at home. And, who wants to travel with all these restrictions? And I had COVID, by the way. I was one of the very first cases. I had it before anybody knew what it was.
Yeah.
I got really sick in December 2019. I was sick for 3 weeks. Yep. And I thought it was pneumonia. I didn't think to myself, oh my God, this feels different. I just felt like I had pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And I was really tired. And then when I went to test for the antibodies, my doctor's like, I know exactly when you had it.
Wow.
Because I have all the antibodies and then I have, most of my friends by now have had it, and half of them say, yeah, I had a few symptoms, and the other half didn't even know they had it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
it's so crazy.
You said you're going through this again, and that's why you decided to write a book. One of the things, did you learn through this process with one of the things, and I know you said, you want to prepare your future for your family and everything else, but
yes,
did you start like saving a little bit at a time, a little more at a time, and starting to build up that oh shit fund in case another situation occurred? Did that?
Well, in 2018, I was doing really well,
mm-hmm.
and I invested quite a bit in a lot of startups.
Mm-hmm.
And, because nobody saw this coming. If I could go back to 2018, I would never have invested anything. I would have just kept it all in a security bucket. But most of my stuff right now is in risk. So that's why I said, for people, put your stuff in bucket, like have your security bucket. And by the way, and I've been taught this, and I still said, oh, won't happen to me. And I put it all in risk, which is startups. And one of the companies I invested in was a travel company. I mean, it just makes me laugh.
Oh.
At least I can laugh about it. But, it's not done. It's not completely done. It might come back. We don't know.
Yeah.
So I just keep a positive outlook. But yeah, it happened again. I thought, well, okay, here's the deal. I know that if everything goes down, and if I have the same experience that I had, I'm not there yet,
mm-hmm.
but if it were to happen, I know that it'll all work out.
Yeah.
Damn good attitude right there.
That's a great attitude to have.
I know it'll all work out, and to live in fear about it right now is silly. And our business is starting to pick back up again, which is really good. My book will be finished by the end of summer, and I get to talk to you great folks and promote this story and see if people are even interested in reading it, and so far I've had, really good feedback of, yeah, are you kidding? I want to read it, because I'm not even talking about all the the real crazy shit, that I went through, like really,
I know kind of some of the top level stuff that we haven't even gotten into. So your book is going to be a memoir,
do you have a
right?
title of it?
Yes, I do.
Is it a working title or is it a finished title?
Well, my working title was My Truth, and the book is I'm a Late Bloomer.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And it is
because it's true,
memoir,
because
right?
I am a late bloomer with everything in life. I have always been, I have been saying this my whole life because, I grew up figure skating. And by the time I had a social life, I was already in high school, and I would say, well, I was a late bloomer. I had my first kiss at 16. I didn't really start, I look like a baby. When I was in college, I looked like I was a freshman in high school. I was always a late bloomer. And here I am, all the life lessons that I had to learn in my 40s.
It's never too late.
So how great is that, though, that I can write this book with the fact that, it's never too late to learn a lesson. And when I was going through that horrible time in 2008, 2009, and it was bad. And I just thought, looking back on that, I thought, what a gift I could give somebody that feels like it's over. It's not over, it's not over. That's it for me. It was just starting. I thought my life was over and it was just getting started. And so we never know what's going to happen. And if you just take it minute by minute, and, if I can just stay out of the future, I'm good. If I start thinking about the future, I'm screwed. It's like, I just need to stay present in what I'm doing. And the gifts are all with what's happening right now. I'm talking to you guys. This is what's happening right now. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The whole world could shut down.
Well, now that you've been on the Beer and Business podcast, the world is going to open up again to you.
Exactly. You know what?
What will happen?
Listen, there's a lot of synchronicity to me being on the show because my son has a company called Beer in the Bathtub.
Really?
Yeah, you'll have him on as a guest. He's really fun. Yeah, he takes pictures of people drinking beer in the bathtub, and he has like T-shirts, beer in the bathtub, and any
Winning right up your alley.
You know how you guys rated the beer at the beginning of the show? Well, he does that in the bathtub, in a bubble bath, drinking beer with a shower cap on. It's very funny.
Oh my gosh.
I need this guy in my life.
Put him
I just need to know him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him team up with you guys. You guys are gonna have a whole brand.
I'm the new marketing director for Sheets and Giggles.
There you go.
I'll tell you what.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and by the way, and that's the other thing I want to say is that you never know who you're talking to. You never know who's going to be brought into your life.
It's true.
And people say, I had one person ask me about sales. They said, well, when people give you no, they said, sometimes I get offended because it's like, I'm thinking, well, if they don't want to do business with me, then, and I said, I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it like they don't want to do business with me, because you know what, somewhere down the line, that person may contact me about something else. And my big story is when I was in New York, I had a connection that knew Ron Perlman, and I called him and I said, I just need 5 minutes. He goes, you got 10 minutes. He brought me in, put me in a room. He didn't even let me go into his office. He put me in a room with his assistant. He goes, okay, Deb, you got 10 minutes. What is it? I said, I just want to meet with the head of procurement. So I meet with the head of procurement. He goes, set it up for her. So he did me a favor. He did me a great favor and put me with the head of procurement. And the head of procurement wanted nothing to do with my business, not me. What I was selling. He didn't want what I was selling, and he didn't want to switch to our company. He had a company, but cut to, if I would have discounted him, if I would have taken it personally, 3 years later, he found me on LinkedIn and contacted me and said, I'm moving to LA and I left Revlon and I'm starting a new business. Can you help me out?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you never know. I never take it personally when people don't want to do business with whatever it is I'm doing, because it's not about me. And I never know who's going to come back in my life and who I'm going to end up partnering with on something else. You just never know. It's kind of fun. It's a fun, if you make it fun, then these people just show up in your life, and it's cool.
Yeah. It's funny, the synchronicity of life sometimes, and I've got a saying that I've told people for decades, and that is, be careful the toes you step on, because they could be connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
It's a great saying.
You don't know who's coming back in your life at what point. So yeah, it's good advice. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. So there's something, as people are listening to your story, hearing you talk about it, I would assume that some of the most fulfilling and joyful years of your life came after 2008.
Yeah.
Which
is really cool, right?
It is.
Guess,
it's so important.
Guess what, guys? I had never traveled with my kids. And after 2008, after 2011, when I started to make some money and get my feet back on the ground, I got to start traveling with my kids. I took them to Washington, D.C. We did a tour of all the monument. Like, we talk about late bloomers, like kids usually have already done this in the 6th grade. We were doing it when they were in high school. And, it was just like all those gifts, of getting to travel with the kids and going to Europe. I went to Italy like 6 times. And yeah.
This is so important, because right now there are people listening to this podcast right now. Today is their 2008. And so listening to you, because right now there's probably somebody that's got a similar situation where, something's happened with their business and they're having a hard time getting out of bed. They've lost their business. They're struggling, whatever. I mean, insert challenge here. Somebody's in that same place that you were in 2008 right now, and they're hearing you, and you completely reinvented yourself and found the best years of your life after. And I think that that's such an important message for people right now.
Yeah. And, my advice, if anybody wants it, it's worth, it's worth whatever it's worth. But my advice is to get quiet and just don't, sometimes here's the thing. You want to take advice from people who have what you want. And sometimes I find that people take advice from I go, well, do they have what you want? Are they living the life that you want? Are they, there's just so many things to look at in that regard. And so be careful who you're listening to, because people who can't see it for themselves are not going to see it for you.
You know what? That's so interesting that you say that. One of the things that was so eye-opening to me, I spent 15 years at AT&T, and I worked my way up to the corporation. And I used to look at these people in senior leadership as like a frontline peon, a nobody. And I'd look at them and go, wow, they got these big houses. They've got everything. They're so smart. They present to people. And I'm like, that's what I want to be.
They're mortgaged to the hilt.
Well, not they. Many of them are filthy fucking rich because, But what the interesting thing is, I worked my way up and I got into senior leadership and made it to the CEO's staff meeting and realized that I didn't want to be like any of those people.
Yeah.
They were all miserable.
Yeah.
They were searching for happiness in places that it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And their morals were compromised. And I'm looking at these people going, I don't belong here, which is why I ultimately left. I did not belong in that world.
I think that's a whole other topic when you talk about what you sacrifice for quality time. And
that's why I said, if you get really quiet and you get in your own space and I call it Deb's den. It's like I get in Deb's den and I go, okay, Deb, I have these conversations and when I look at what people have, like who my mentors are, who I look up to, there's, are they living 100% of their life, or are they living 80% of their life? Are they a good parent? Are they a good business person? Are they making good financial decisions? Are they flashy? Are they driving a Ferrari because they're insecure? It's like, who am I looking up to? And that really, by the way, it really makes a difference when you get into business, because when you get clear on who your mentors are and what you're looking up, what your vision is, that's what you're creating. You're starting to create that. That's who you're bringing into your world. And that's so beautiful, It's like, oh my God, I don't bring in the flashy stuff anymore. I bring in the real.
Well, that's so great. And I got to tell you, I think that's a great place for us to wrap this conversation up, Deborah. I'm so glad you took the time to come on our show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm just happy to be of service, and I'm so blessed that I got to meet the three of you, even you, Winnie. And thank you for even wanting to know my story and wanting to share it with people. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I will be buying an advanced copy of I'm a Late Bloomer. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested to read the book. And when the book comes out, we will plug it on the podcast, and we'll talk about our alumni, Deborah Driggs, being on the show, and her book is out. So I can't wait till it's released.
I'd like mine autographed. So after I buy it, I'm going to have to send it to you.
Yes, we will. We will. We need signed copies.
Don't feel flattered. I always want autographed copies of books that anybody who's on the show writes. So
maybe what will manifest is I'll come to the studio and do a show with you in the studio.
Hey, we would take you anytime. So,
there you go.
And you know what? Our community is not a wasteland like LA, so you might actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Boost your spirits.
Yes, you'll actually go, wow, there's life happening here.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
Yes, Mr. Winnie. Yeah. Well, Deborah, this has been awesome. Gosh, I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story and being so raw and honest about it. You've touched lives today, and for that, I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Folks, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week.
See you.
Yep.